these misperceptions which we develop over a course of period, and in this information age, somehow our mind very selectively reads things which we want to read to reinforce our bias. Information age is more like a double-edged sword. So we said, we businessmen, by definition, we're problem solvers. That's what we do day in, day out. And in the international arena, you have diplomats, military people, politicians. A lot of them carry actually a lot of baggage. They come from certain pre-positioned point of views. So, we could actually do this. So this was the whole idea. And initially within the YPO, there was a lot of resistance because, they told us, guys, we are a business network, and I do not think so it's a good idea to get into politics, all right? And we just might end up messing things up. And so we initially started, there were 3 of us who started initially, and we were more like a rebel group within the YPO. And we said, fine, if you guys don't want to give us any permission, don't. We're still going ahead because there's nothing that stops us. And that's what we did. And it was, I think it took nearly about 8 months before we got, one of the tools in YPO is the forum. It's a confidential setting where a small group of CEOs meet once a month, and we exchange ideas, we share our issues, and we interact. So we said, let's use this forum concept on the international platform, and let's try and bring in people, CEOs from conflict areas in a forum setting. And whatever you say within the forum remains confidential, so you can really lower your guards and really open up. And the first forum we did was between the Arabs and the Israelis. And we had 6 Arabs, 6 Israelis we were like moderating. And we met outside London for about 48 hours. Those 6 groups on both sides never knew each other. So after the first few hours, of course, it was a moderated session, but it worked out really, really well because the barriers started coming down. And the moment that started coming down, we started seeing each other as human beings, as people having the same aspirations, and also surprisingly, same culture, same sense of humor, same ways of looking at things. And it was quite fascinating. And after about 48 hours, the group blended really, really well. They bonded very well. And subsequently, the forum met over the years every 3 months, and they went on to do a lot of projects, be it some microfinance support in the West Bank. The group formed the Palestinian chapter, YPO Palestinian chapter, etc. And it is a long list. So similarly, in the India-Pakistan, Suki and I, we like worked on, and again, it was a successful story. Thank you.
Now, Suki, from your point of view, well, what happened for you within your own country about taking this on? What were the responses?
I think all of us here know the background, but just
on? They say on kind of.
There you go. No, it's more on. It's honor.
We know the background of the India-Pakistan conflict. As we know, in 1947, still, I did switch it on, but
you can use mine. Here. Sorry. I've got it. Thank you.
It's okay. It's fine.
So maybe I didn't switch it on. No, I've got it on. Thank you. As we know, it was one nation. We were under British rule for well over 150 years, and when we got independence from the British, it wasn't like they just left, brought their flag down, packed their bags, and left. They divided the country into 2. And since then, there has been conflict between India and Pakistan. We had 3 official wars, and we had one incident, which was called the Kargil incident. And there are bones of contention, Kashmir being a very important bone of contention again there. So clearly, there have been times of less tension, but there have been times of greater tension. So this was one such moment in 1999, this Kargil incident that I talked about. Group of Pakistani irregulars sort of occupied a strategic height in Indian territory. And it was very serious for the Indians because it was at a height and they could control the highways and actually control the road to Kashmir. So we went and we went at each other, and it was at that moment considered to be the most dangerous place on the planet, because here were two nuclear armed nations having a go at each other. And finally, I think President Bill Clinton, in fact, invited or called Nawaz Sharif, the Prime Minister, and said, please back off, because everyone was getting really tense about that happening, and which he did. And subsequently, General Musharraf, there was a coup and he took over as the president. So based on that, you already had these armies standing eyeball to eyeball. We'd cut off trade links, we'd cut off overflights. So in fact, all flights to Europe and America from India had to go around, so it took them 1 hour extra. Similarly for Pakistan. So it was really at that moment that YPO came up with this initiative and said, would you like to consider it? So they invited Amin to chair it from the Pakistani side, and they invited me. So we put together a group of 6 businessmen each, and as he said, it was a wonderful experience. We were able to form a bond very, very quickly in the first few hours, and we met every 3 months. Initially, we met in Dubai, which was neutral, and then we met in India, in Pakistan, and in India. And the tangible outcome of what we did, initially it was really just meant to be able to form a bridge between individuals, between business people, and hopefully that would lead to something a little wider, and that is precisely what happened. The first outcome of that, concrete outcome, was that we took a group of 132 YPOers and their spouses. We took them across what is called the Wagah border. That's the border separating India and Pakistan. And it was not meant for civilian traffic. It was only meant for, it was a border crossing, but civilian traffic had been stopped post this incident. And so 132 of us walked across with our baggage to be received by Amin and his colleagues. And it was one of the most amazing receptions we ever had. And for 3 days, we were in Pakistan. The way the hospitality, the love, the warmth, the affection, including General Musharraf, who was by then president, and he invited us to introduce the presidential palace. We spent 3.5 hours with him, where we had a very frank and open discussion and a dialogue with him. It was something fantastic. And what was a positive outcome of that visit was that here were 132 people, barring 3 who had been to Pakistan earlier, 129 had not. These are influential people who came back, who had gone as cynics, who had gone as doubters, who came back with a extraordinarily positive outlook, and also wanting to sort of realizing that being biased, being angry is really not the way to go. And you have to work towards, as individuals, as families, as businesses, to make an effort to come together. So obviously it has its own ripple effect within your family, within your communities, within your companies. So that was one. We also created what is called a CEO forum, an India-Pakistan CEO forum. In fact, Amin is one of the co-chairmen of that. So that again got off onto a very positive start. The third initiative was that we invited Pakistani artists to come to India and show their work out there. And again, it was a very successful initiative. Again, culture is a very important way. In his case, it's music, but art also, I think, is a very unifying force. And